Welcome back, everybody. Today I'm going to review a really fun little lens that was super inexpensive. And the reason I'm reviewing this lens is actually from a comment that I got on a video that I did about 7 of my favorite micro four thirds lenses for people on a budget. If you're interested in that video, I'll put a link in the description. The comment was that these lenses weren't budget. Well, I thought they were, and I suppose what is and isn't a budget lens really depends on what your budget is. But the commenter felt that they were too expensive. So I went out looking for the most inexpensive lens that I could find. I remembered several years ago, around the time where the GH4 was kind of the king of the cool little cameras, that a lot of folks were adapting CCTV lenses that were C-mount and using them on micro four thirds cameras. There weren't that many lenses that would cover the sensor. One in particular, a 35mm f1.6, had been very popular because it did cover the entire sensor. Well, I went looking for these online and I found some that had horrible reviews. I found some that were really high in price. It seemed like that great deal had kind of disappeared. Right before I was about to give up, I spotted this lens and I thought it was curious that there was a 35mm f1.6 available and it was only $35. And it looked like it was housed and ready to mount to a camera. So I went ahead and ordered it. What came in the mail was this. It's a Fotasy 35mm f1.6. I'm going to guess that this is actually the same optical formula that was in those CCTV lenses. f1.6 isn't a terribly common aperture in mirrorless lenses. And based on the performance that we're going to see later, I'm guessing that this is just that optical formula put into a ready-to-mount case. This is a manual lens. We get no autofocus. It is manual aperture. The aperture is clickless, so if you do video and want to be able to fluidly nudge your exposure, that's available to you on this lens. It's really light at 110 grams, and it has, I believe, let me look at my notes, 37mm filter thread, so little tiny filters. Those are nice and cheap. I'd call the build quality okay. I have to consider that it's a $35 lens. Is it brilliant? No. Does it look like it's going to hold up? Yeah, I wouldn't beat it against anything, but it seems good enough to last. As I was looking for this lens, I also noted that there was a Sony and Fuji that appeared to be the same lens in those mounts as well. To give this thing a good test, I took it out over 3 different photo walks in the last couple of weeks. 2 of those days I shot on a color camera, and then on the third I have actually the camera that I just showed with the lens on it is an infrared modified camera, and that's a lot of fun too. On the first day, I went for a walk around a park that has a lake, and it has a neat little floating bridge that goes across it. I thought that would be a great test because you really get to see how the depth of field advances as you start stopping it down. I took a series of shots stepping through the apertures that are marked on the lens. The first is at f1.6, then stopped down to f2, then 2.8, then f4, then 5.6, and finally I stopped at f8. It does go past that. I believe it steps all the way down. Let me take a peek. Yep. To f16. But with this focal length of a lens, I just don't see why I'd need to go down much past f5.6 to get the things that I want to shoot and focus. So I stayed at the more moderate apertures. By f16, you're introducing a lot of diffraction, which is going to soften your image noticeably. So I stopped at f8. I was focused on the little warning sign to the right of the gate. I noticed right away that on the first couple of shots, it's not very sharp. At f1.6, this is dreamier than I would use unless I was really going for a super soft effect intentionally. f2 helps a little bit. f2.8, you notice some improvement. By f4, the sign is reasonably sharp in the center. The edges are still really soft though, and it never really improved. Stepping down further to f8 really didn't make an improvement that I noticed on the edges. And by this time, I'm getting a pretty deep depth of field and the center is quite sharp. While I was walking back to my car, I spotted a little sign and thought that would be a good test of center sharpness. Shot at f5.6. The sign itself is usably sharp, but again, the sides are really, really soft. The lens does vignette wide open, but since I would use it stop down, I don't know that that's too big of an issue. Here's a shot wide open of a wall. There's a little vignetting around the edge. In most shots, I don't think with something other than a blank wall, you're going to notice those too much. For folks shooting video, it does do a little bit of breathing. I shot this on the second day and just really quickly set up a tripod and pulled focus both directions. And you can notice around the edges that it does have noticeable breathing. If you followed my channel for a while or seen any of my other videos, you might have come across one where I talk about infrared photography. It's something that I love to do. I had a suspicion if this was a C-mount CCTV lens formula inside, that it might play okay with infrared. Not all lenses do. There's a problem called hot spotting where you get a glowing orb in the middle of your screen, especially as you stop down. And it's frustrating. It's really common on modern lenses. But I was hoping that this lens wouldn't exhibit that. And it turns out when I walked around, it worked just fine. It has all of the same problems in infrared that it did in color. The edges are still very soft. It is still very soft wide open. But I took these series of photos at f5.6, and the center looks pretty good. If I was doing a vertical crop for social media, I think a lot of these are usable. The full width, you run into the same problem we ran into with the color images where the sides are just kind of mush. If you were looking to do infrared portraiture, like a head and shoulders type focal length, this might be fun, and the soft corners might not be as jarring as they are when you're shooting a shot that would make more sense if everything was in focus. Decided that when I start reviewing lenses and cameras going forward, I'm going to give everything a score. It's going to be in 3 categories. For lenses, it will be image quality, ease of use, and overall value. For image quality, I'm going to give this lens a 5. It's not the worst lens I've ever used, but it's right up there, especially in the corners. Is it good enough to be fun for some folks? I think absolutely it is. If you're looking for a dreamy look or just a strange bit of character, I think it's fantastic for that. If you're looking for tack sharp corner to corner, it's definitely not the lens. For usability and shooting experience, I'm going to give it a 6. It is a manual focus lens. That takes some getting used to if you haven't done a lot of that. Having the focus ring so far forward is a little awkward. I found myself continuing to accidentally grab the aperture ring, having to reset that and then grab the focus ring. But when you get all that put together, it does work okay. So I'm going to give it a 6. And then for overall value, it's really hard not to give this a good score. It's only $35, right? That it takes pictures and focuses at all is kind of neat. I've got a T-mount lens that I've never got acceptable infinity focus out of. I played with shims. It's just awful. So for only $35, this is really a great deal, especially if you want a quirky character-driven lens. So overall, that puts us at 20 points out of 30. And as I go forward, I'll probably start creating a leaderboard at some point so we can compare overall scores. But I think a Jeff score of 20 fits this lens pretty well. If you found another really super cheap lens that is reasonable quality or a lot of fun to shoot, or if you have any questions, please let us know in the comments section. Thanks for watching. I hope you have good luck on your art journey, and we'll see you next time.